the special call board meeting specifically for budget planning and an executive session topic as well to order on today, May 5th. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay. So we have an approval on the floor or a approval to move forward and then a motion to amend the agenda. So let me go with the first one that came first.
I withdraw mine.
Okay, makes it much easier. Okay, so let me go with the second one now. Okay, so we have a motion to amend the agenda. You want to state specifically?
I'd like to amend the agenda to include board action relative to superintendent's recommendations in executive session, and also in reference to changing the date of our June 10th board meeting to June the 3rd.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Coggin on the floor. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right. So we have that taken care of. Superintendent Fury?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will begin our presentation, and Ms. Peggy Bullard, as customary, will lead us through your notebooks, and we will take you through the presentation. And certainly, if you have questions along the way, just stop us and ask questions. We'll be happy to respond to them, so that we can get our tentative budget approved at the May 13th meeting. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. So the first tab is the presentation, and this is an overview of the budget, of the highlights in the budget. And our first page talks about our increases in state revenues. And I think everybody knows now that the governor has decided to give us some more money this year to help eliminate furlough days. So that would be the $3.7 million. The next two increases are QBE local fair share and our QBE equalization. Those have to do with the fact that our digest has decreased over these last few years. And so our local revenues per pupil have gone way down, so we have earned more fair share and equalization money. So the grand total state increase is $6.5 million.
And one thing I'd like to comment on is the austerity reduction, just for purposes of clarification. Those dollars are not new monies. They are monies that should have been allocated to the school system that are coming back to us by way of reducing the austerity cuts and returning some of the money that we should have been paid to begin with. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay, next we have the increases in local revenues. Our tax assessor says that there's possibly a 3 to 4% increase in the local digest. Of course, we don't have the official information yet. So we've budgeted a 3% increase and we are using 20 mills. I think you all know about the rollback law, where if the digest increases, we're supposed to lower the millage rate so that we only collect the same amount of taxes, but we'll discuss, why we've still budgeted 20 mills for that. Then we have some miscellaneous increases in the miscellaneous revenues, so for a total of $1.2 million. Okay, and so in continuing to talk about the digest, I've given you a chart that shows our digest from fiscal year 2009 through 2015, and as you can see, in 2015 we're still collecting $15 million less, over $15 million less in taxes than we did in 2009. And we're even collecting less than we did in 2013 still. So, okay, so any questions about that? We'll
Even
go
with a reduced millage rate, in 2009, the millage rate was 18.21, and now it's at 20 mills, which demonstrates the further denigration of the digest. And so you'll see that even with an increased millage rate, we're still collecting roughly $332 less.
Well,
per-
that's the next one I was going to talk
Go
about.
ahead.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's okay.
So the next page is the average sample home between 2009 and 2015. And you can see that your average home, of course, you know, some went up, some didn't go down this much, but using averages, in 2009, a $150,000 home would be possibly only worth $96,000 in 2015. And so I show the calculation of the taxes, and you can see at 18.21 mils versus 20 mils, it's 332, the tax bill is likely $332 less. This is just the M&O taxes. So then I go to a year-to-year comparison, this current year versus next year's budget. And this time I talk about M&O and the bond debt service millage. Now, the bond debt service millage is not part of the rollback law, and that's because you have to be able to levy a millage rate that will allow you to collect enough money to pay your debts, to pay the principal and interest when the taxpayers approved the sale of the bonds. They've approved that we can charge a millage rate to pay those bonds back. So we have to be able to do that. So it's not included in the rollback rule, just the M&O. But if you look, because of this year, we begin our new SPLOS 4, and we're using a lot of that money. It begins January 1, so we have just a half year, but we are able to use a lot of money to decrease this bond millage rate from 1.9 in 2014 to 0.45 in 2015. So even if the home went up 3%, the tax bill, the overall tax bill, M&O and bond, should be down about $33. So in actuality, we'll be advertising that we have a tax increase, but we really possibly some people won't have a tax increase. A lot of people won't. So any questions about that? And then, of course, the next 5 years after that, we should be able to levy a no bond debt service millage rate as we get into our SPLOST. Okay. All right, so now we'll talk about expenditures. And we just wanted to highlight the major differences. Of course, there's lots of them in there, but these are just the major differences. And of course, we've budgeted one additional workday for most employees. Of course, bus drivers would not be included, some of the positions that already have all their days back. We budgeted step increases for all eligible employees. We also have a 1% increase on the salary schedule, but it's not really adding anything to the 15 budget compared to 14, except it is adding a little, about $100,000 is all because of benefits apply this time. This year we gave a bonus, and the way that worked is there was no TRS on that, but when you raise the pay scale, then the TRS applies, so it's a little more expensive, but not much more. So it's one additional day, step increase, and 1% increase to the scale for our employees. And then, of course, the TRS rate is going up, so that's a major increase there. We have 11.5 additional positions requested, and we'll talk about that on the next page, list those and talk about those. We've added back instructional computers and other technology for the schools. This used to always be in the general fund budget. We've been using SPLOS funds for this the past few years, and we have a lot of SPLOS projects needed, so we added back the computers back to the general fund. Maintenance is up, and that's mainly because of the last few years we have not done a lot of maintenance that we really needed to do, and it's getting to the point where we've got to get some of it done, some safety issues, and Jan can talk about that some more. Then the last item here was a decrease in budgeted health insurance, and That applies to this year also. When I budgeted for health insurance, I was told by the state that there could possibly be a later in the year increase in the certified health insurance. Well, that ended up not happening. Then also, as I looked at the non-certified insurance, I really had too much budgeted, and that's because there's been a decrease in the participation the last couple of years. So I'm decreasing those budgeted benefits. So those are the major changes.
Before we go to the next page, can I ask you a question?
Okay, now, yeah, we can go down these positions.
She said she had a
Oh,
quick
before,
question.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said the next page.
No.
Go ahead,
Let me-
before we go.
Yeah, I have a question just for clarity. Okay, so the 3.4 on the total net major increases altogether, are you using the 3.7 for that? What?
No, those just happened. We didn't base our increases and decreases on the revenues. We
Okay.
just, that's how it worked out, the
Okay,
budget,
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure, because then my next question was gonna be, so what happens when next year we don't have any
Right.
money?
Yeah,
coming
we're
from-
concerned about, we've got forecasts in here too for
Okay.
you to talk about that. But no, we just did our budget without regard to the revenues,
Okay.
really, except we knew
We
we
knew
had
when-
money to give raises, and which
Okay.
have been the major cuts over the last few years. So then, so the next page, we have the additional positions requested on that prior page. And the first is special education teachers to meet standards for severe and profound intellectually disabled students. The second thing is a psychologist to meet standards. The third thing is a lead teacher that's also special ed to facilitate CEC meetings. The next thing is a lead nurse for nursing services that needs to be an RN on staff. The next thing is a K through 12 professional learning and curriculum coordinator needed to meet advanced ed required actions. Next, we have a technology instructor for the implementation of Safe Path in the elementary schools. We have a assistant principal for Newton High. We have 1.5 custodians due to additional square footage to maintain. We have a counselor for ombudsman, and we have an additional SRO for a total of 12.5 positions, $786,000. I think I forgot to, that should be 12.5 on that other page. I forgot to fix that. We added the SRO at the end. But the SRO actually is contracted. It's not actually an employee, but it's contracted with the sheriff's office. Did you want to go over any of the positions or talk about?
Yes, I have a question. On the ombudsman counselor,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why. I recall specifically, and I know we had in part for the year, as a turnkey operation, that it would be no assistance needed for the ombudsman program. But we did have a half person, despite of that commitment from ombudsman personnel. Now we're making that a permanent, above and beyond the contract, that support ombudsman. Is that correct?
That's right. That's what, this actually is a
Yeah.
person contracted with now that's doing this work. Well, it's ombudsman, it's special ed,
And testing.
and testing. Yeah.
So yes, you are absolutely right. Last year, when we first started utilizing ombudsman, we did not understand the relationship on our side and the liaison, how we had to interface with ombudsman. So we contracted services with someone who happened to be a counselor. And the relationship has worked out very well, such that our special education students are benefiting because she is able to be there to support the IEPs, to make sure that they line up. She also, because she's a counselor, she understands high school scheduling. She understands our high school scheduling, so our kids are able to get in the right classes immediately Renee was having to do all of it before. So this person has been acting as the testing person to help with testing our ombudsman students. It's just a lot of stuff that the district is responsible for. We're responsible for the testing piece. We're responsible for making sure that the students are served appropriately at the center. And so having the counselor position, even in a contracted role, was helpful to make sure all of the pieces of the puzzle fit. And so we figured that we will probably need to continue with that position. And she actually was a person who was a counselor at Sharp Learning Center. We brought her back for all of the reasons that I just described. And I feel very strongly that it's time to make the job a permanent position until such time that ombudsman is no longer the service that we choose to use. Does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, sorry.
I'm concerned that we had a commitment that it would require no additional force, period. Now we've migrated into, and I think we should have included that as part of the contract
Okay.
from ombudsman, because they made a commitment to us, no additional resources will be needed for us to completely perform our task assigned.
Right.
Those were quotes.
Right.
So now here, we're getting into another person, and I
Right.
think that's contrary to what I have been told and seen.
Right, I understand. However, we do have responsibilities to the ombudsman program from the district's perspective, and because of the number of people in this office, we're having a great deal of difficulty meeting the needs of the children at the Ombudsman Center. I've got Renee Fenley overseeing the operations from our end, and there's just not enough hands on deck to get the work done. So over the last 3 years, we've contracted with our counselor to help us. It's about doing what's right for the children, and in order to get it done is, yes, maybe we should have talked to the ombudsman people and asked them to pay for the position, but at the end of the day, it has to get done for the kids to make sure everything is right. And so I duly noted, I understand what you're saying, and I'm happy to talk with the ombudsman team about it and let them know your concerns. I didn't think it would be a concern because we've been doing it all these years, so otherwise I would have.
I have a concern
I understand.
because we're not complying with what we agreed to. And we
Well,
should have discussed this
Right,
at the current, and we failed.
Right.
So consequently, we have to pick up this tab, which I think we should not be.
right. But I think the problem still remains that because we have to act as the liaison between the district and the students, the amount of work is not going to change. And I don't have the staff here to support that kind of work. And that was irrespective of the ombudsman contract. The contract said you have to have a liaison, someone who oversees the program from the district's perspective, and we had that in Renee Fenley. It's bigger. It's a bigger job than just one person, especially one person who's tied to multiple other duties and responsibilities. So in order to make sure that we are holding up our end of the deal, the last thing we want is for the ombudsman program not to be effective because we're not acting as the appropriate liaison. And Renee just can't spread herself that thin to be the liaison. And that's just the truth of the matter. And they expect us to be able to provide them with all of the things that I mentioned, and Renee simply can't do it. So the only option you have is to continue to contract with the person we have, or put her on as a full-time employee, because she's doing full-time work. She's working with special ed. The students at Ombudsman are, there are a large number of special ed students there. They have a great deal of needs, and a great deal of emphasis has to be placed in those areas, and Renee just simply can't do it. So I appreciate you.
I had to be redundant, but
I
I'm not
appreciate your
questioning the
opinion.
value
I
and the
understand.
functions
Mhm.
of what she's doing.
Mhm.
I'm questioning our failure to respond to what we agreed to.
But we did agree to be the liaison. That's part of the contract. We did say that we will be the liaison. We just didn't realize at the time that it was going to require so much work above and beyond what Renee is supposed to be doing. So I'm certainly happy to talk with the ombudsman people about it.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. And we'll see what we can work out from there.
Do we have any other questions on the additional positions? All right, so the next page, this is the last completed year for which I can get data, 2013, and it's just an illustration, again, talking about the 20 mills and the rollback, about how you can't really compare millage rates by county. There, you know, if you look at Newton, 18,636 students to serve. We have 20 mills. We spend less than Jasper, who has a much smaller digest, only charging 18.99 mills, but they have so many fewer students to serve. So their mill goes a little bit further just because of the number of students. And I show some of our other neighbors, and then I put Fayette in there because they're close in size to us. They're also 20 mills. They have a much bigger digest than we do. So, any questions on that? And the next thing I'm showing, again, talking about the need for the 20 mills, is our teachers. I did a sample teacher, T4 10 years in 2009. Now they have 16 years, and they're still not where they were in 2009. We contributed to health insurance. We contributed more to retirement. They've basically been on a fixed income for these years, and we're hoping to get that corrected over the next few years. And the next page is just a graph. As usual, our salaries and benefits, you know, are almost 87% of our budget. That's not unusual. Then we have repairs and maintenance of buildings and school buses. We have utilities, textbooks and supplies, computers and equipment, and then all other, which the bulk of that is ombudsman and the contract with the sheriffs, and then other miscellaneous. Next page, we show that 87%, how it's divided out of salaries and benefits, and the bulk of it is in the schools, instruction at over 95 million, almost 96 million. Media services, 2 million, that's a school salaries. School administration, 9.5 million almost. So the bulk of it's out in the schools, but that's how it's divided out. Probably about 91% is school salaries. All right, and now we have our projections. And with this budget we presented to you, again, it's 1% salary scale increase, 1 day, and then the step increases. And so the 2014-15 is this budget we presented to you. For 15-16 and 16-17, we're showing revenues as being flat, and the reason we're doing that is because hopefully the digest will continue to inch up, you know, 3 or 4% each year. Maybe we'll get some more state money because of growth, like we did this year. We got over $1 million because of our growth. But we're concerned about that over 3 million we talked about, that it won't hold. And I can tell you, because I've been around a long time, and traditionally when there's an election, even if the incumbent comes back, it doesn't matter what party, it just seems like that next year there's a problem with funds. And there could be a decrease. So, you know, it doesn't matter who it is, that's a possibility. So that's why we've left the revenues flat. Then in fiscal year 16 and 17, we've added a few little things. In 15-16, I've added a couple $1 million for health insurance, because There's no health insurance increase for 2015. I'm talking about the board's contributions. And since they're skipping this next year, I'm really concerned that we're going to get hit with a big increase in 16. Also, I've added some for step increases, and then in 17, I'm assuming another increase in health insurance because they have been doing over $1 million each year we've absorbed for non-certified. So I'm assuming that it's going to happen again, and some other step increases. But you can see, even with these assumptions and no additional revenues, we're projecting with this budget, because we're concerned about if we say a 1% increase, step increases, we want to be able to continue that and not cut again. So that's why we do these projections, and it looks like we'll still have a healthy 14 million, which, you know, we need to have at least, we'd like to have 10 million. So we're still in good shape with this budget continuing the increases. On the next page, Samantha asked me to do it with another day, so 2 additional days, a 2% salary scale increase, and then of course the step increases are still in there. And so we still, 2017, we're still not in bad shape, not at the 2 million we'd like to be, but it's not. So using those assumptions, so that's just to help you decide.
Obviously, the goal is to try to figure out a way to reinstate some of the things that we have taken away from our employees. And the reason that that's the case is I have had the opportunity to ask folks who are leaving, just call them up and ask them, why? Tell me what's going on. And most of the cases, it's been that they can go elsewhere and have a better benefit package and more money. And so while we cannot compete with the Gwinnett perhaps, we certainly can position ourselves to try to get our salary schedule closer to a more healthy schedule than what it is now. And as you know, this is the maximum, the 2 days, 2%, and the step increase. And then the most conservative is the 1%, 1 day, and 1 step. Those are things that we think we can carry over. So any combination of those in between, as long as it doesn't exceed that this most expensive one, is a possibility too. For example, if you wish to have a 1% pay increase with a step and add back 2 days, that's a possibility as well. Or the reverse, have a 2% pay increase, a step, and have 1 day. Those would be the options between the most conservative and the most you can do by way of this chart. Those would be the things that I would recommend that you consider as you decide what you want to do. If you want to do a combination, or be really conservative, or go way out on the other side, and although you see the ending fund balance is just under what we would like for it to be, again, you still have those outliers over which we have zero control. So do you want to go that far out? And that's something that you guys would need to decide.
Do you have a list of the austerity items that we have, where we are, and what was put in the budget to get us back to where we were as reference in here?
I did not put that in here. She had sent it to you
I
a
sent
couple
it.
weeks ago. I wish I'd put it in here though, but I did not, no.
Let me
But we
check.
can send it out
I
again.
have
That's it right there.
This, that maybe we can make copies of this, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. We'll make some copies of that so you all can have a copy of it.
And one more question that I know you told me this before. What was from the teachers when the feedback, what was,
Step,
the step increase was
Uh-huh.
number 1.
yeah, and then it was,
I know, I can't remember.
yeah, the
Is
closer.
it 403?
Reinstate step increases, add back furlough days, and add back school board contributions to employee health insurance premiums. And
Those were the top three.
Those were the top three.
Retirement wasn't in the top?
Oh, no, it was, I'm sorry, yes, it was the three right there. I have my thumb right over it. Increased school board contribution to 403B.
Okay, so the first
Obviously.
one was step increase, the second one was adding
Furlough
Furlough
days.
days, then, there was a tie between health insurance and the tiara, the
I don't think we
403B.
we didn't give them a choice of increasing the salary schedule on that.
No, we didn't.
I would imagine that would be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we put that on there, that probably would have been the hands-down winner. Yeah, increase the salary schedule. But yeah,
Question.
yes.
So could we possibly get a combination, a list of, combination of those particular add backs and takeaways so we can look at the
Yeah,
background?
yep.
She's doing that right
Kathy's
now.
gonna make, or Diana's making a copy of the document for you to look at.
I'll just do the last page real quick. This is just a chart, and I did this last year, and it was FY 2012. So here's the latest completed year, FY 2013. Just wanted to show that Newton County Schools compared to the state, we spend more on instruction, we spend more on transportation, mainly student-related things, and our general administrations. And I think we're just continuing that pattern with this budget.
So that's good news, even in spite of all of the reductions, and we still put our money in classrooms. Thanks, Diane. Thanks.
Peggy, chart B. Is that, that includes the worst possible case scenario, the health? You've done that, and so how do you feel about option B, given that in fiscal 17, I guess we're about 800 under 10, that's some, under 7%.
I think that's close. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very,
That doesn't worry you, that budget?
no,
Chart B doesn't?
no.
Because the ending fund balances look better than I thought they would.
And certainly, you know, we would have 16 we might need to change.
Change
Right.
But we're hoping to not decrease things we've given, but
That's the
But we
only
still-
danger is, my fear is,
Right.
if you give it and then you have to take it back. And so, as I've told you before, I'm just real conservative, looking towards the future, trying to say, if we're gonna give back a day, then give it back, don't take it back. And then that gives you time in the next budget cycle to look, to really see how things are. Because these are all projections, so.
So how comfortable are you with chart B?
I feel pretty comfortable with chart B. I still worry, just a little bit, but that's me as trying to project far down the road and make sure that everything we're solving at the end. And, but I'm confident with both charts. I think a combination of the charts gives you the best case scenario. That's
Like
my.
a 1.5?
Yeah, like, I think like if you're gonna do a 2%, then a
Right.
step and then 1 day, or 1%, a step in 2 days. That combination gets you between the first chart and the second chart and gives you more wiggle room here at the end. Those in-between pieces.
One question. What's left after this on our list?
Let me see, I don't,
you mean of everything that we cut over
Oh,
those
yeah.
years?
Right.
Okay, I can email that. That's
it's a big long,
yeah, it's like several page list. Right, there's a lot of positions that were cut.
yeah.
I
don't
can
have it
get
with
that
me.
to you again. I think you got it, you know, when we did that October meeting, but I can send it out again.
Yeah.
Okay, just to help,
Yeah.
just to see where we are and what's left.
It's a pretty exhaustive list. I
Yes.
actually looked through it before the advanced ed visit, and there's a lot of things that were reduced. I mean, just an example would be changing the high school schedule from a block schedule to a 7-period day resulted in a reduction of 42 positions to the tune of $2.8 million. you know, the changing in parapros, and these are just things off the top of my head, the reduction in parapro staff, the reduction in the number of hours and creating different classifications of paraprofessionals.
Three-tiered bus.
Three-tiered transportation and the reductions there.
Well, I hear you, but
Yeah.
it was not my intent to
Yeah.
go back to
Yeah.
one tier of transportation. I'm looking for those things.
Yeah, we'll get you
In
those.
direct, involved employees.
Gotcha.
That's what I was,
Yep.
stuff like this, that's what I was talking about. I don't want the whole list of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peggy, how do we compare the 403 contributions from the employer end as a match? And they seem,
Right now, we're only doing 0.5%.
It seemed really bad,
Right.
yeah.
But the thing I've talked about before is that I feel like it's more important to get the employee's salary
Yeah.
up, because they can make that choice then to take their salary and put it into the
Right.
403B. That's why we,
Trying to restore the
yeah,
money.
because a lot of people really need that,
yeah.
you know, their spouse lost their job or whatever. That way we put the choice in their hands. But
What other things do you need from us to help you make a decision on what you think you might need? Anything else that you don't have?
I can find that information. I just didn't have that.
Yeah,
I can send it out again, no problem.
it's probably easy for us to send it out.
Did
Anybody else?
you want to go through is there anything in here you wanted
We can go through
to
that.
question,
I don't know
or
what's in it.
questions?
I have just a question on the list of potential add-backs, number 6, the 78 6-hour per day parapros to 8 hours. How is that working now? Is that,
Well, you have some people who like to have 6-hour jobs.
Right.
They appreciate having those. And then you have some people who don't want the 6-hour job, they want the 8-hour job. But we actually talked about that. Could we increase the 6-hour to the 8-hour? But Ms. Sanders and I were saying we're trying to keep that classification, because not everybody wants to be an 8-hour person. So we kind of beat that one up a little bit.
but it's okay in the schools with the workload and that?
It has not been problematic, but there are places where people would request, if at all possible, to have a 6-hour para to
Okay.
become an 8-hour. But it's not been as rough as it was when we first
Started.
implemented 6-hour paras. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, should we not assess each one and make the decision which would be best?
We can, yes.
That's what I say, because I think what we want to do is get the best
Yeah.
scenario, whether it's 6 hours or 8 hours. If we need 8 hours, then I think they need to do 8 hours.
Yeah. I think that the 6-hour paras are working with kindergarten students.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's typically where they are, and they're there when students are there, so that's why the
Right.
6 hours works.
Right.
They just don't have that time before and after to plan, but they're there the entire time the students are there. That's typically how the schedules are set up.
Well, is it possible that we could do something different? Give the
Sure.
principals an opportunity
We
to
have.
assess that?
Yep, we
And
have.
let them determine, because you're not talking about
No, it's not, right,
a whole
right.
bunch of money, but it's
Right.
important.
Absolutely.
And I think that will show
The-
that we are listening, and let them make that choice.
The problem that you'll run into, perhaps, maybe not at all, is that you may have some 6-hour pairs who don't want to be 8 hours, and so
Well, that's fine.
then you're okay with just leaving them as 6-hour pairs. Nairi, is that work? with
Yeah,
you?
I just think that most of them that are in that job, they understand that, and typically when an 8-hour position becomes available, they compete for it and the principal moves them into it. So most of the ones there, I would say, are fine with remaining there, but
Mhm.
it's still an option to let the principals, I guess,
Yeah, we can.
talk to that group.
Yeah, I mean, I had one principal, since we started the allocation cycle, who was impacted, mentioned to me that if at all possible, could we increase the 6-hour pairs to 6.5 hours? That was the request, and I said, well, we had talked about that, but we didn't talk about 6.5, we talked about 6 to 8. And so yes, we'll be happy to go back and just survey the elementary school principals to see how they feel about it. We'll go from there. Let you know between now and Tuesday.
I have a question. If we are just doing a scenario, like going with chart A, the more conservative, the way about doing things, my concern is, I mean, just like you were saying, Ms. Bullard, my concern is you get money one year and you don't get the money the next year. And then you're kind of stuck in a situation, and the same thing with what you said, Superintendent Fury, I don't want to give something and then later on down the line, what I voted on to give, I have to then in turn say, I'm sorry, you guys, we got to take this back. So during the chart A, would we still be doing what we've been doing in the past if we were to go with the more conservative choice, is have another budget meeting on later on in the year and see where we are?
Absolutely. That's the way I like to handle the budget, just when I know, after we get it all solved, and then we can come back and, like we did this year, and look at it again in October.
And then if we have something, feel
Then you
comfortable,
can-
we can do something else.
You can do that
Okay.
as well. It's quite honestly up to you to decide how you want to handle that, but, again, just being, Peggy will tell you, Peggy is very conservative, so.
She feels good with B.
Yeah, she feels good with B, and I'm just like, well, I feel good between A and B. You know, I think it's a great plan and a great process to have a budget work session after the year's over, to get you reacquainted with the budget and the
Yeah.
finances in a manner that, should there be any issues, whether it's on the good side that we can do something else or not, you know very early on, at least what we know at that time. And I just intended to do that anyway, as part of the process, so.
Let me ask you this, since Ms. Bullard has a good grasp of how things are going to happen somewhat, you know, we can't predict the future, but you have a good grasp of it.
I'm
And-
guessing.
Protect
And since Ms. Berry already has mentioned the fact that we're losing and we're not retaining a number of good teachers due to salaries. So based on that information, I think it's incumbent upon us to do something to try to retain and attract good qualified teachers. I think doing nothing is going to put us in a position where we're going to continue to lose good teachers, and the ones who may have thought about coming here may go somewhere else. And I just think it's incumbent upon us to do something. And saying that, I think it would be good if you would say, you know, what you felt comfortable with, if we have some different options to give us your 1, 2, 3 choices based on your predictions.
I think these are her ones.
Right.
These
These
are
are-
her
these
choices.
Yeah,
I
chart
think-
A, chart B, or combined.
I'm the one that's
Combination.
messing it all up in the middle
I'm just saying,
there. She
a
said-
combination with some things that we can do that will put us between the,
I haven't
Well,
done.
the
Real
reason these mostly are salary increases and days is just what you said. I think
Right.
that our salary schedule needs to look better. I don't think people are gonna be that impressed with the 403B
Exactly.
contribution. We need our salary schedule compared to
because
Henry
if
and
they have the
Rockdale, et
funds, they can
cetera.
make the decision as to what type of contributions they
And
want to
that,
make.
yeah, so we need that schedule to
Right.
look better.
So that's what I would like to see.
And B bumps it up to 2%. you know.
2%
Right.
and 2 days, which,
Right.
you know.
So, and you know, that keeps, you've got some really good folks in our system who will look at the average of the 2 highest years for retirement.
Right.
And that helps there too,
Mhm.
to keep them from going somewhere.
What is the current furlough days? Remind me again.
3.
We're at 3?
3, is it 4?
I
No, it's
think we're
4.
Four,
Okay.
yeah.
4 days and we add back 1. I can't.
Okay, so currently it's 4, and so if we were to add back, in A, we would add back 1, so we'd be down to 3, and then the other one we'd add back 2, and it
We've
would
got
go.
two. That's what I keep thinking, I'm adding back 1 already, and we haven't done it yet, so
Yeah.
it's 4 furlough days, add back 1 in the first chart, add back 2 in the second chart, and then hold steady on the other 2. I think the teachers, based on just generalized conversation, they're good with the 2 furlough days that would be left over.
Yeah.
You know, they need more days to do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
On the front of the schedule for our elementary people, on the back of the schedule for our secondary people. So, and you know, professional learning is something that is a required action, which they used to be recommendations from the advanced ed people, now it's required. And so professional learning can take place on those days before and after as well, so,
Help me, need some help.
yes.
We gave 2 days payback last school year. We gave 2 back this school year.
This school year. Did we?
Yes.
I can't remember, Mr. Johnson, the cycle, actually.
What
I
is-
know we had 6, and we gave back 2 days, and we went into this year with 4. And so we're at 4 right now. And then we were proposing to add 1 or 2 back, so, because we had 6 days to start with, is what it,
What I'm saying, let me rephrase it. We got
Okay.
2 more days to pay.
yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
2 days left, but
Yes.
2 furlough days if we go with adding back 2.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's, if we can, stay back to our survey,
Yes.
and as much as possible, let's stick to that. They told us what they were like, and I just don't see why we would deviate from that.
Because she said that
Trying
it
to get
wasn't
the-
you didn't give them the
Well,
option
Of a salary schedule increase was not on the
Yeah.
list.
that probably would have been number one.
It wasn't-
It was a step increase and then add back the furlough days, so, yeah.
You know,
We are giving them a step increase, and furlough days were 1 and 2,
2,
I
yeah,
believe.
those were 1 and 2, so you would
And
just naturally
so-
assume that salary increase would be.
however you want to determine it, let's put the money in that check,
Yes.
Mhm. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
and hopefully we're doing what they told us that they want to do.
We are, except for one thing. We, as we've already said, we did not say, because we didn't know we would be in the position to even think about adding a step or a pay increase to them, and to their schedule. So it wasn't something that we took away, so it wasn't on the list, the survey. So that's just something to try and rectify the pay schedule, so that our salary schedule looks a little more, a little healthier. So that would be, I would venture to guess, although we've not asked, that will, based on what happened in January, the pay adjustment, that 1% pay adjustment, my email, between the day that they received it and the end of January, it was just blowing up with, thank you, oh my goodness. So I would say that a pay increase is gonna be, so you've got a pay increase and then a step increase and then the days, whether it's 1 or 2 days, all of that goes into, the employee's check, into their paycheck. And that's, I think that would be the top 3 things. But I think, Mr. Johnson, to your point, yes, we will look at the survey and check them off one at a time as things improve financially. If we have to administer a new survey based on what we've added back, we'll put it back out there again and see where they want to go next. It was a great idea in October. It still remains a great idea now.
I have a question, Ms. Fuller. Is it possible, I mean, if not, then that's okay, I'll deal with it. But can you combine the numbers for me for the projection of like using, a combo between the 1% salary schedule increase and 2 workdays?
I think I have it in my phone already. If I can-
Okay, so I think we'd go to Schedule A and then subtract another 453,000 from each year
Okay,
to a 1.5 million. So we'd be still well above
okay,
The
10
453.
million.
Okay. Where did I get my numbers from? I'm not gonna tell you. I had 4 something, but it wasn't 453. Okay, 453 from each.
Approximately. It's-
Okay.
That's an estimate.
That's what I was calculating.
See if I can find my numbers. If you would, I don't know if you want me to, talk about the combination in between. I think, if I can pull up I just call them charts, see? A 2% cost of living adjustment would be, a step increase would be 1.5 million, and then a 2% cost of living would be 1.9, one furlough day, resulting in a 3.84 million. So it's less than what it costs on the far end, on the 2%, 2 days, and the.
On chart
the
B.
step, yes.
Yeah.
And then chart D would be, the same step increase of 1.5, a 1%, which is not 950,000. And then, restoring two furlough days would bring you to about a 3.3 million. So that's even on the other side of conservative. So if you were to rank them with conservative being 1%, one step, 1 day, then it would be followed with a step, a percent, and 2 days.
Okay.
And then the next one would be 2%, a step, and a day. And then the biggest one would be the last one.
Right.
The 2, 1, and 2.
Okay, your chart D was the 2 days. Your chart D was the 2 days and the 1%.
Yep.
Okay.
2 days, 1%,
And then your chart C was the 2%
and 1 day.
and 1 day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a C?
What I can do for you is I'll put that in a chart and just send it to you, so it lines them up like it.
It'll be fine, just like this.
Yeah, like that,
Right.
just like that. We'll do it just like that, so that you can see what it looks like. And then you can see
Now,
like
if
the,
you got the other one where you said line up together, like if it's already composed, if it's already made, then
Mhm.
I'd like to see that one.
Okay.
Where I can see just the bottom line numbers, chart
Yeah.
A, B, C, and D.
okay. Does that work, Mr. Johnson, for you?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
wanna say thing like that.
Mr. Turner, is that all right? Chart A, and then we'll organize them like the most conservative to the most money.
Okay.
The highest cost. And that would be irrespective, we'll count any of these things because we'll do the discussion with the principals about the 6-hour pairs. And then if you wanna add that back, that would be a point of discussion as
Okay.
well.
Thank you. I'm a visual person. I got to see it together.
Anything else?
I still have a couple more things
Okay.
to go through.
Let's go through them.
If we don't need to go through the large section, whole budget,
What do you want us to turn to?
next we can go to the SPOS, and that's just for your information of beginning SPOS 4 and where those funds are gonna go. That's a cash basis budget there, and that's something I gave you back also in October, where it shows the cash flow of that SPOS. And then the very last page is our advertisement. When the board tentatively approves that budget, we have to advertise it for 2 weeks. And this ad is all the funds. We mainly talk about general fund, but we also have other state grants, which is our lottery pre-K and our special needs pre-K. Special revenue funds are all our federal funds. These are just estimates. Capital projects, and those are our SPOS 4 mainly, and some run over from SPOS 3. Our debt service, our school food service, which Jan needs to talk about next because she's got some additional positions in there. Then our school principal accounts and our after-school program. So I'll let Jan talk about food service.
Excuse me, before you
Oh,
go,
I'm sorry.
I have some notes on the different functions. Are
Mm-hmm.
you gonna go through those?
We can.
Sure, yeah.
Will the pages be identical to this as to what you sent us on the computer? Email?
They should be, because I think you sent them the last one I did, so do we need to go to a
What
certain
page?
page?
Well, you may have answered it, function 100, I didn't put the page number down.
Page 7. Page 7.
You said 100 or
1,000?
1,000, excuse me.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it starts on page 6.
Yeah. 6.
Yes, page 6.
6, 7.
Parapro salary, 212 to 222, that's what I'm trying to find now.
Actually,
Page
it's
6.
gone.
Didn't put the page down.
222 current. Yeah, that's page 6.
That's the number of persons, the 222, is that?
So it went to, okay. Okay, let's go back to the point that we're making of the 6 versus the 8 hours. That's what we're depicting here?
Yeah, well, there's 222 that are 8 hours. And then 78 that are 6-hour parapros.
Okay, okay, no problem there. Page 16, 1, item 5.
Page 16.
Item 1. I think that's all 3. Okay, you covered these initially
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Those beginning sheets, the summary.
Yeah, the total,
Right.
yeah.
And that's why I'm calling it off.
Yeah.
It's a duplication here of what
Yeah,
I have a question on.
just summarized it.
Right, okay. And then when you keep talking, training for a business manager?
Oh. What page is that?
Let's see. Big no up there.
That is the, that's the.
That's
the
2,500.
no-
That's page
no
24.
page. We're not doing page, right?
Yeah.
That page doesn't exist,
Yeah.
page? What page are you on? Oh, yeah. What we're doing.
Board, I don't know.
Yeah, page 24 is the business manager.
Okay.
Just get rid of that. She's
Yeah.
not allowed.
She must stay. And that, Mr. Johnson, that's for, because Peggy will be retiring, April of 15. It's hurting me to say
Can't
it,
say it.
sorry. And so with this kind of, budget, it is a prudent practice to put someone in place to learn next to the master of the budget so that there is no, downtime in the process.
learning
And so
curve
that's
there.
what-
I'm asking that question in part, most part, out of frustration.
Yes, so,
Not that it's not important,
Yes.
what you're doing. Because I think we should have done this last year when she told us that it was going to take place in 15. And we procrastinated and did zip for it. That's my frustration.
Well, if we do it now, I mean, it's,
You've got
if you want somebody in
here.
place for a year, we've got a year
Yeah.
right now. That's why I'm giving the heads up,
Yeah.
if that's,
You said in
you
15,
know,
right?
so
yeah,
that.
next year. Not this April, or the one that just, next one.
Right.
Yeah, so
We got a year.
yeah, so we got a year.
And I was looking for it to be about an 18, 2-year tour.
Yeah, well,
I'm serious.
that was a.
Because one mistake gonna flip this whole system upside down.
The
And
good
there's
news-
nothing more critical than her job that we get through.
That's right, you're
That's how
not
I feel.
moving though, right?
No, I mean, I will be available to call back if necessary.
Call.
you
Oh,
know.
we're going to,
I mean, for brief,
I know what you're planning, a point 49.
no, I do not want to be point
No,
49.
But, Mr. Johnson,
I want to get somebody so good that you all will forget my name for a few months.
Retire.
I'm gonna look for a really good person, I promise. An experienced person, I hope, anyway, so.
Yes.
Well, I didn't take good notes. Okay, I'll give up.
If you think about it, there's plenty of time.
Now Jan needs to go
Yeah.
over her people, okay.
One more, I'm sorry. Can let's see. 2,700, another truck.
2,700.
Fucking 2,700. What?
What is that?
Mr. Barr?
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
It's on page 28.
You will notice, first of all, the overall.
Is it
budget
28,
is
29,
down.
the pickup truck?
Oh, pickup truck, 29, sorry.
I'm not good at total numbers.
Yes, 29.
Second, that's, we have one, I think, Ford F-150 that's got several hundred thousand miles on it, and that's to replace that roadside service truck. We have two that are, we have one that we bought for that purpose several years ago, and then we have one that we reconfigured from a box truck when we stopped doing grounds work at schools that we use, which is not ideal, but acceptable.
What, is this
And then the
a,
third request is for,
this is a truck equipped for on-site maintenance?
that's correct, yes. Which
We got two now, right?
We have two, well, we say we have three, but in reality, we have two that are.
Okay, well,
depending
I'll
on-
give you one on the side. What concerns me is that this will give us three on the road,
Right.
and you'll have two in the shop. That seems to be a reverse approach. So how are we gonna get our,
It is a reverse approach in that we are doing all of our inspections, bus inspections in the field now. We do not bring the buses in at all. And that saves on gas and hours, labor hours.
I agree with you. So what I'm concerned about is the downtime and the number we have that's not working. And we have two people in there doing in-shop maintenance theoretically. Would I be out of things saying you need another mechanic?
Mr. Johnson, I did not request a mechanic
Well,
within this budget, but.
Well, I know, I'm concerned about our assets being tied up, 10, 12 buses
what-
in the shop, not on the road, and you look at them, they're costing $100,000 apiece.
Right.
We can't afford to have that kind of asset not producing. So we gotta do a better assessment of that issue.
Right. And you know, I'm in total agreement with you, that, but we have a very low downtime at this moment. And what I would like to do, before I ask for any additional personnel, is to make sure that I've done everything possible to maximize on efficiencies within our department. And we've done that all this year, and I think we've made a great deal of progress. And one of those things is doing field inspections rather than bringing every bus in every 45 days. Taking the mechanic to the bus has been a very good success for us. But let me continue to work on everything I can, and that way I can stand here and say that we've done everything that we can to maximize efficiencies before I make a request for a mechanic. It is fair to say that we are, that the average mechanic per bus ratio, that we're not near that. I mean, so there is a potential understaffing there, but I would like to do everything I can do to make sure before I would make that request.
I applaud your comments, but I see that in a practical term. It's almost like paying usury interest on a loan. Why borrow 25%? And when you can now do it and pay 6%. We've already spent that money, and we are paying a high price for not utilizing our asset. So how long do we have to pay that high price when our buses are not working properly? And they're tied up.
But I guess I would not agree totally that the buses are not working well.
As long as you agree with me a little bit, we all good.
I do agree a little bit.
Well,
But we've done a lot, and I would like to continue down that path just a little while longer before I come to you and say that we need any additional help.
little humor here now. Would you share the download buses with the superintendent daily until we get it down?
With the what?
Yes.
Download buses.
Oh, yes. I get that every day, how many buses we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we want us, we'll put it in the operations report. So you can see it.
Well, no, just be available, so if I call you and see it.
We got it.
Because I won't let this go because I think it's an expensive item not to do something about it. Thank you.
You ready, Jim?
Yes, I am. I have a really good problem to have, in that I have a excessive fund balance that I need to spend. And the best way for me to spend it is to invest in employees. We have, over the last 5 years, upgraded our quality of our food to the point that our participation is at 80% for lunch and 40% at breakfast. When I arrived 8 years ago almost, our breakfast participation was 29%, and our lunch participation was about 74%. So we have done a lot of things to get the students to come to the cafeteria and eat with us, and we're very proud of that. Having said that, we now have more money than we are spending. And
Excuse me, you said that again?
because of the salaries and things that have been held down over the last few years, I have excess fund balance that I must spend or the state will ask for it back. And so I am proposing to add some positions. The largest chunk of that is into assistant managers at every school. Right now, we don't have any plan. Well, our plan for succession is that we have a manager and training program, and that by the time we get them trained, they're already managers. So that's not working very well for us, and we would like to have an assistant manager at every school that we can train to become a manager, and to manage when the manager is out sick on family medical leave or whatever. We are required by the health code to have a number 2 person responsible for the school in terms of food safety, and we are not in full compliance with that. So adding these positions at every school, well, at 20 or at most of our schools, we're going to have 4 schools that we will share a position because they're so small that we just really can't justify a full-time assistant manager at those 4 schools. It's a lot of money, but we will use that person. I've put several things that we will have them doing, one of which is that if we have one employee out, we will not put a sub into those positions. We have to staff so tightly that we don't have excess labor in the school, so if someone's out, we have to put a substitute in there. And we will reduce some of our substitute costs, so it won't be an exact budget impact, but we are asking for those positions. I'm asking for 2 additional positions in the school nutrition central office. One person would become an additional training manager. We currently have 1. The number of reviews that we have to do at every school is increasing. The number of schools that we have that have after-school care, after-school tutorial programs with snacks involved is increasing. We're at 17 this year and expecting additional schools next year. We have to do 2 reviews in those schools every year. We have 2 fresh fruit and vegetable grant schools. We've asked for those schools to have that grant again next year. We're just doing a lot of things, and we just need a little more supervision at the school level. That's going from school to make sure that all of our schools are doing exactly the same thing. The second position that I'm asking for is for a person to focus on our procurement and purchasing. We have a wonderful procurement and purchasing department who does an awesome job for us, but the regulatory requirements for procurement are increasing exponentially. And Friday, I was in a meeting where I was told that the school nutrition director, which is one of my hats, is responsible for all of the school nutrition purchasing and must monitor all of our vendors closer, and we cannot assign that to someone outside of the school nutrition program. So we have to beef up our supervision of our vendors. There also, a new regulation is coming down that for every piece of equipment that we purchase that costs more than $5,000, we must have state approval to purchase that equipment. So it's becoming more and more difficult to manage procurement because of the increasing regulations and the increasing specifications that we have to have for whole grain, 0 trans fats, all of those things, that we have to know what is being sent to us. We have to know that they're sending what we wrote on our specifications, and we are not able to do that right now with our current staff. So those are the positions that I'm asking for. It's a lot. So any help you can give us would be appreciated. In my budget, if you will look at the second page, I still plan to provide the money to the school system that I have done in the past. Currently, we're picking up $150,000 of pest control and garbage pickup. This year, we gave $400,000 for workers' comp expenses, and we're going to, for the first year, we're going to give $70,000 toward property insurance. And then I believe at the end of the school year, we will still be able to do about $400,000 in utilities. So we continue to help the general fund as much as we can.
I have a question. I was going to ask a question about that because I remember a few years back when you talked about there were some ways that you could help the school system with certain, pay certain things out of your budget because they're tied in together. Did you look at, is there any other way? These are it, like as far as positions or ways that you can help out of your budget?
Well, between Peggy and I think we've pretty well exhausted.
Exhausted. We
The
can't make
property
it work.
taxes, the property insurance is something that Peggy discovered this year, so that's why
Okay.
we're adding that in this year.
Okay.
We just have more money than we can spend.
One of the concerns, you can clear it up for me, please. You have funding now for, I think you said 4 months, and you've got 2 months excess. We add the folk on, and you're not able now to fund the additional people.
Well, our turnover rate in, not just in school nutrition, but in food service in general, is about 35% a year. So we have an extremely high turnover. In addition, our funding, our staffing, our labor in each school is based on the number of meals served in that school. So if meals served decreases, we decrease positions automatically. We do that now. We might transfer somebody to another school. We have never laid anyone off. We don't fill positions. We transfer them somewhere else. And that's what we would do if our funding changes significantly, which
Thank you.
it could. We're up for reauthorization next year, so we could have a significant change, but we would more than likely not have to lay anybody off. We would still keep those assistant manager positions, people in those positions. We would just kind of rearrange the workload.
We have a price increase next year, right?
Oh, yeah, we have a price increase next year too, which adds to it, adds to the income.
Well, I'll say one thing that I'm excited to see in here, actually, what you presented, is the implementation of a summer feeding program in June 2015. I think a lot of people don't realize that we have a lot of students during the summertime in need of.
We have a contractor that, actually, she rents the kitchen, is renting the kitchen.
Yeah, I
at,
remember that contract
Newton
went
High,
through.
That has
Yeah.
done it for a couple of years now. But we are not reaching out to anyone out into the community. All that she is doing for us are our summer camp programs. But we can, with a lot of help from everybody, actually take food out to off-site locations.
Oh, great.
Such as libraries or parks or things like that.
Good. That's great.
If transportation can help us with services.
Well, you get a new truck.
Food truck.
Food truck, yeah.
That's what we'll do.
Actually, there are some school districts that are doing it in
A food
California.
truck.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's needed.
Yeah.
That's good. Sometimes that school lunch is the only good lunch.
I have one other, if I not interfere with the schedule, page 33. process to begin upgrading system-wide landline telephone systems. Can you expand on that explanation? That was you, Mr. Barr? Oh, that was
That would be me. I'm filling in for Dr. Shadid.
Oh, okay.
Our.
Do you know David Johnson, right? Okay, just making sure.
David Johnson with the Technology Department. We have a very, a 3-com phone system in the vast majority of the schools. 3 of the schools, 3 locations, the new Newton High School, Flint Hill, and the Career Academy are currently using the new Cisco phone system. 3Com phone system needs to be replaced. The idea is to begin the system-wide replacement for all the other locations. So the locations have not been identified as far as which schools, in what order we would do the remaining schools.
Well, that was the point of my question. And the next one, have we identified equipment to be replaced? And what vendor is responsible for the
The new equipment would be Cisco phone systems to match what we're using in the other new locations. The order in which we replace those, the 3Com systems, has yet to be determined.
We've decided to do some now, right, with the 99,000?
Yes, sir.
How many is that going to do?
Would depend on the need and which schools we do, because obviously a larger school, we'd go through the mine faster than we would smaller. And that's an analysis we haven't completed yet. And the need would be based on some of the schools, their phone servers are on their last legs. And I don't have that information in front of me to tell you, but I can certainly relay that request to Dr. Shadid, and he can provide it for you, what he anticipates that order to be. But that's something that has not been determined yet.
Well, I would like to see a sequence of events in this throughout the system. What has been determined not acceptable or need to be replaced, and a cost associated with it. Just to say $99,000, and we don't know. I guess Dr. Shadid can answer that, but this is a blind shot.
He mentioned it once before in a budget session that he was fearful of the phone system falling apart. And so we began to have a conversation about what is it that, how can we start the process of renovation? And so considering the monies that we have available. So his thought was to start looking at the most pressing needs first. Now, we can definitely have him send you, the board, more detailed information to outline that $99,000. But I think that that's just to get them started in the process.
Thank you.
Ms. Bullard, were you done with the advertisement portion?
Yes, unless you have any questions.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from board members? Okay.
Oh, one, I see the red line, $300,000 for potential safety concerns.
What page, Mr. Johnson?
25. No, thank you. I'm sorry. It's the red line that you sent us.
Yeah.
I didn't write that down.
The one that went through it. Oh, on page
page
27,
27.
yeah. I think it was actually, if you'll turn back on page 26 and look at the top where it says contracted services, the last 3 words, safety committee recommendations, so we just pulled it out of there. So it was a more overt statement about the safety committee, because Ms. Lumens has a safety committee that meets all throughout the year, makes recommendations based on what they think we need to implement in the schools for safety purposes. And so it is Is that the same thing that we're talking about? Yeah.
Well, what
It has
happened
custodial
was,
equipment in it.
yeah, the reason, I changed that description from the budget you had gotten prior to that, and it had in there, replace, what is it, the landscaping type equipment, and
Yeah.
Jan said, take that out of there, we don't do that anymore. So that was the change to that line, and anything that I changed from that first budget you got from Samantha is in red. And that was a change there to pull out the landscaping and
But not,
lawn
Not the
equipment.
not just for safety,
Right.
it's other stuff.
But it had safety, yeah, in there
In
in the
there.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, could we have some of the itemized items that you're talking about?
Well, sometimes it's difficult to, we have the broad categories because you don't know what they're going, when the safety committee meets, we don't know specifically what they're going to come up with, or if a tractor breaks, we don't know that the lawnmower is gonna break. So we put them in broad categories and we use them to serve those categories of things. So you may have no recommendation from the safety committee or no lawnmower break. So that money would not be spent in that specific line item. But to go through and itemize them one by one would be really difficult to do. Some things are just, you just don't know exactly.
I understand that, but what I would think, if we have, gonna put an item in the budget here, we should have some planning contingencies as to what it's going to be. And when the activity take place,
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
I think maybe help kind of clarify things a little bit.
Yeah.
When they put the budget together, they have different line items. There may be some items that you may not specifically say that this is going to happen. However, the balance here is when they put that particular item they purchased or repaired into that particular section here. So if you need to
Right.
balance your book, you go back and look and see what items were purchased
Right.
and are repaired under that section. So it's, so some things are just used in general terms because you don't have a way to really specify each one that may happen.
Right.
If that, like repairs.
Right.
You know, you have no earthly idea what some of the repairs may be, as
Right.
long as you can justify that particular repair fits into this category.
Right.
Is that?
Yes, that's correct. That's,
I'm not talking about repairs, I'm talking about capital layout money that we're spending for new equipment, that's what she's talking about.
But that would always come to you too, before we buy anything like,
it would come to you in a board item, to a
Right.
recommendation.
If it's under 25,000.
If it's under 25,000, it would not. But
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying, see.
Yeah.
So- All right, go ahead, I won't belay the point, I just have to.
you just want us to try to itemize more things in the budget, is what you're saying, if I understand you correctly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think we try to itemize it as close as we can to put broad categories with things that would line up underneath that category, so that we go to that spot. And if it's, say, the budget says we had $100,000 in there to repair lawnmowers or to repair maintenance equipment, we would go to that. And if it was over the amount of money that was allocated for that, we would come back to you to say, hey, we only allocated $100,000 for this item, it's gonna cost us $106,000. Would you approve us amending the budget to move $200 or $3,000 from this category into that category? So that's how we would handle if we didn't have enough money. If we didn't spend it, it would just remain. So we talked about, Mr. Johnson, your concern about, in our executive support team, about trying to itemize as many things as we possibly could so that you could have a better picture of the work that's going on underneath those broad categories. And we had a pretty lengthy discussion about how we could potentially get that done. And so we're thinking to try to figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? If not, can I have a motion to go into executive session,
So moved,
please?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.